strategies just yet.
Now, do you think as the season goes on and progresses, we're going to be seeing those bigger maps coming out because teams are going to kind of figure out how to attack it with the shorter amount of time?
I think it's going to be up to the teams when it comes down to it ultimately. So I hope so, but we'll have to wait and see. But here we go, folks. We're going in game now. It's our first round. Like we said before, it's not like Counter-Strike where it's round-based and everybody gets 1 point to win a round. If you get 1 point, that means you've won the round just on kills. 2 points, however, can be gained if you win the round as the attackers by getting the uplink. Now, the uplink is going to be spawning on the northeast side of the map on the North Street. So this will be a much more open uplink and a little bit harder for the attackers to get access to. And as a result of that, this means that the defenders on that North Street are going to have to spread themselves out a little bit. We can already see, however, Bossfight, who's starting on the attacking side here, making a pretty aggressive move, already moving up about halfway through the map. They've left 2 teammates back a little bit further towards the east here, where their main group of 3 is trying to push the west side.
Yeah, and it looks like the attacking team have split up 2-3 formation, and they're trying to get to that main street near that uplink. Sorry.
As far as the defenders' positions are concerned, these are pretty standard spots, so it won't be too crazy if we end up seeing the attackers knock down a few players with just well-placed nades. Speak of the devil, there's going to be one right there. Scooby-Doo with a nicely placed grenade. It manages to knock out one player from Silent Purge. He'll be down. He's not out just yet. So there is a pretty good chance we can see him get revived, but it's not going to be happening. He gets finished off by Scooby-Doo just a few moments later with his rifle, and that'll be the first player getting knocked out.
Don Patron taking a look at his tablet. Now, I understand pulling out the tablet in the middle of these kind of gunfights is kind of risky.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty risky because, as you can probably tell, they have to take a hand off a gun. So they're either not going to have their hand on the trigger if they're right-handed, or they're basically going to have to try and fire a gun with one hand, which in the case of these AKs and M4s, which is going to be the primary weapon for most players, the aim is going to go pretty crazy after you attempt to do that. 2ult game tries to move in to scavenge some supplies off of the down member from Bossfight. It does not go well. Thankfully, Silent Purge is ready to get the trade just a few moments later, and Jamie is also able to find another down. Knocks out a 3rd player from Bossfight. We'll see if he gets revived in a moment. It looks like at least someone's going to try to make a run over and get that player back up. Thankfully, he's behind cover, so there you go. Quick little syringe injection, and Hoochie will be back in the fight.
Yeah, that loot was just too juicy. He wanted it. Thankfully, he wasn't punished completely for that. It looks like we're back down to a 2 versus 3 situation. Bossfight was able to revive him, but looks like he went right back down. Don
Patron caught onto that, was able to catch it, and it looks like he's going to get another one. This is some really aggressive movement coming out from Don Patron right now, but it works out brilliantly for him. Picks up his 3rd down, possibly his 2nd kill of the game, and Silent Purge will just finish it off. King of the North will be finding the last frag, and Silent Purge on defense will take the opening round.
Ending it very strongly. I think the uplink being out in that street, the north part on that middle street, is a little bit out in the open.
It has advantages and disadvantages for both teams. It has an advantage to the attackers in that we saw at the beginning there was a pretty direct nade kill, or a nade down at least, that ended up happening to start the round off for Bossfight, and that's because there's only a few good defense positions that the defenders can go to because the uplink is in such an open position. There's not really many buildings that the defenders can actually go to the inside of, so oftentimes they go to 1 or 2 porches, and for the most part, it's pretty easy to just lob a nade over the top of a building and knock someone out that way. So it's become a really common thing now to see at least 1 or 2 defenders get knocked out in those positions. And I think pretty soon the defending teams are going to have to start adjusting on that uplink to not play into those kind of standard spots. Maybe either try to get more aggressive and pushing for kills earlier on, or just try to play in a little bit more of an unorthodox spot where they might be more in the open, but they'll be less expected to be there.
For sure. And did you notice what that player risked his life for to try to get that juicy loot? Was that a smoke grenade?
It was probably a nade. He might have used his syringe earlier on in the game and was just trying to go in to get a resupply on a syringe too. There's a few things that go onto the ground that can be pretty quintessential for a player to pick up, but not so much as to push into an area of the map where your opponent still has clear control there. So that was either a miscommunication or that player just kind of misjudged the situation and thought it was clear for him to push that when it clearly was not.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I like Hoochie's position. He's got his back covered. All he has to look at is right in front of him, and he's crouched down, proned, so that his physical outline is as small as possible, getting close to the ground as much as possible.
Now, he does have to be careful because him and Scorpio are on those 2 porches. That's what I talked about before. These are pretty standard positions, which attackers usually expect someone to be at. So more than likely, we're going to see some nades try to come down and knock those players out early on in the round if they can line them up properly. another player, Legel, here hiding behind the barricade. He's going to be watching the far east street from that position, trying to see if anyone will push up the bus street and try to work their way to the uplink from that direction. In terms of a strategy from Silent Purge, however, who've now taken on Marsoc on the attack, they're primarily holding in the mansion right now, trying to see if anyone from Bossfight wanted to take any risks and push down from the north. They're not going to get much of an angle, unfortunately. There's no windows in the mansion that really face the north. There's only that one door that leads out to the pool in the back. So the other two are actually pushing over towards the semi-side, over on the west side of the map here. They're trying to work their way up there, but unfortunately they're going to be stuck. You've got players like Scooby-Doo in position, but success is found for Silent Purge. Another well-placed nade. It was probably the player here on the far east side in the porch there that ended up getting knocked. And they're going to try to finish him off. We can see more grenades going over. The revive does come out, which is going to get brought back up. They try to nade out Scooby-Doo too, but he's a little bit more forward than the nade positioning would assume they have him at.
Oh, it looks like King of the North is priming another nade. Oh, it's smoke grenades to try to push forward in this position. I like Too Old to Game's position. I like his alias. I like his utility. Everything about Too Old to Game. I can relate with this guy.
Scooby-Doo has a nice hold. At the very minimum, he's able to trade 1 for 1. Too Old to Game, though, will take him down a second later, eliminating him from this position, but you still have players like Legel. Problem, though, is Legel's not going to look at a different spot, but he's got all 3 of his other teammates watching the east street anyway, so we won't have to worry about it too much. He catches the movement past the smoke. There was Too Old to Game, works his way across the street regardless. Scorpio will continue to hold, though. Takes out Too Old to Game, and it seems like the attackers are continuing to run into issues here, as they're now down to only 2 players left for Silent Purge here, both of which, unfortunately, don't really have great position to try and follow up and trade out those kills from a moment ago.
Oh, I see that Legel here has brought down his tablet, and as far as I understand, when you're defending, you're able to hold corners a little more freely, so you're able to bring out your tablet, set it down in front of you, and utilize that as far as another utility for yourself to try to gain an advantage inside the game.
Yeah, so oftentimes because the defenders usually don't do a whole lot of movement in the round, they'll usually just take up, and we've seen great examples of that here on this uplink. They're normally just sit in one spot and kind of hang out there for the round. So they're able to take the liberty of bringing their tablet out, which is essentially the only UI you have as a player in this game. That's going to be your mini-map. That's going to be the only way to tell if you still have teammates alive, unless they communicate it to you that they've gone down. So a lot of players will put it in a corner, lean it up against a wall or something like that, and use that since they have the capability to do that on defense. Attackers don't gain that, so that's one of the advantages that the defenders will get. And Legel is able to weigh that perfectly. Finds Gunner, one of the last players alive here for Silent Purge. It's just straight kill, no down for him, so it's all going to come down to Don Patron now. In a 1 versus 4 situation, unfortunately, he only has a minute and a half left as well to either eliminate Bossfight in its entirety or send the uplink code, which, if you look at the minimap and the formation that Bossfight currently have, the uplink is looking incredibly unlikely.
Yeah, it's looking like Don Patron is in a sticky spot here. He's trying to really stay as low to the ground as possible and not give away anything to his enemies to try to make it as much in his favor as he can, but you're right, a 1 versus 4 situation is asking for a little bit too much.
It's also likely at this point in the round that he's kind of run out of nades to use, so no smokes or anything that he needs to get across the street, and it looks like nothing fell on his corpse as he was down there, so that's why he kind of just had to try his best, go prone and attempt to crawl across the street and hope he didn't get noticed, but obviously this was not the case, so the defenders take both of the opening rounds, so the teams will trade 1-1, and as a result of that, we're going to end up tied on the first uplink. It's going to change position now. The uplink obviously has a few preset positions that it can go to, and after each team gets a chance to defend it, it'll change to another randomly determined spot on the map. We'll be seeing where that's going to go in just a second. It actually looks like we already know. You guys don't. You'll be seeing it in just a second. It's going to be on the same northern street, just the other side of it.
Now I have a question. In this one-to-one scenario such as this, have you ever seen an attacking team fully strategize to just get to the uplink to gain those 2 points?
Normally not, at least not with this specific uplink point, because it's so far in the open. You would basically need to have an entire team committing to smokes and try to do kind of like a smoke lineup and rush it. But the problem is because time to kill is so low, any member of the defending team with an LMG or any kind of high capacity magazine is probably, if they see that, they're going to see that happening first of all, and they're going to be able to probably pretty reliably just spray into the smoke and probably take out 2 to 4 members of the opposing team in the process. So unfortunately, that type of strategy is never going to be super reliable. You still have to kind of take a bit more of a slow broiling attempt to it.
For sure. Ooh, I like these shields.
And this is going to be coming out now from Bossfight. They didn't have one, as far as I could tell, in the previous round when they attempted this. So they're going to bring one into the fold this time in hopes that it allows them to kind of get in the open a little bit more, and at very minimum would allow Weather Balloon to give a little bit more intel to his teammates, more than anything.
Now, as an attacker, you're allowed a shield, but defenders aren't allowed shields, right, Blue?
Correct. Defenders cannot have shields. So if you ever see a defender with a shield, that means someone on the attacking team definitely messed up. Speaking of messing up, someone from Bossfight is going to run into a very unlucky nade at the start of this round, meaning that they have to use a syringe to get him up relatively quickly. Nice mark for Silent Purge. Unfortunately, it's not going to let them a kill just yet. It was a little too off the mark to find the full elimination.
Now, I know you mentioned that there's no UI, Blue, but when you hit an enemy with utility, a grenade or anything of that sort, is there any sort of markers that let you know that there is an enemy in that area?
To my knowledge, no. So
okay.
if you do find a frag from that, the only way to be able to tell would be, I think, if you check the scoreboard or just, yeah, and you happen to notice it through that, basically.
Okay.
You can see some smokes going out pretty early on.
The communicating. This is the first time I'm hearing them communicate so far in this matchup. And we mentioned, as we mentioned, that it's a proximity voice chat, and so the enemies can also hear what he was saying.
Nice aggressive push from Don Patron past the first line of houses here is actually going to allow him to steal a kill away early. Scorpio will respond to that, finds Don Patron before he's able to fall back, but at the same time, it looks like, oh, from the grave from Don Patron, he was able to throw a nade out just before he went down and traded that out by taking down Scooby-Doo in the process. So Silent Purge still ahead despite losing that player in a 1-for-1 exchange. Hoochie, unfortunately, misses the Q on Scorpio trying to fall back. So Hoochie's going to end up picking up a team kill, even confirms it accidentally as well. So Bossfight will lose yet another player here. Hoochie may have a chance to redeem himself, though. He's got an enemy snake just behind the truck. He can see his legs. He can't get enough damage onto him, though. He tries to struggle, but no, ends up losing the fight to 2-ult to game. Hoochie will go down as a result of that. 2-ult to game, and the meanwhile is going to be able to pick up the shield. Legal is trying to respond to this. Another team kill will come out here. Legal is actually keeping himself in this with the team kill and the other 2 kills that he's found. He's brought it down to a 1v1 now, and still with 2.5 minutes left. If he changes his position, he can play this incredibly cautiously. You can see he's already made an incredibly aggressive push to the far north as well. He was able to get a nice flank around some of the Silent Purge members and wrap around them. In fact, King of the North, not sure if those were direct shots onto him or not, but Lego, he's going to fire off. This will give away his position. It does look like he's kind of just blind firing right now, hoping to get lucky and find a shot or 2 connection on the King of the North. But nothing being found just yet. So it will be a standoff between these 2 players. You can see King of the North right by the uplink too. He's definitely not going to let Lego get those extra points.
Lego just went in and he went ham. 3 kills so far, 1 death, and man, that was chaotic.
Very hard to control some of these situations or even figure out what's going on, because mind you, that kill feed, players aren't seeing that. Players don't really know when and how their teammates or opponents even are going down. We saw 2 team kills in the process of this round. Quite a few enemies just getting quickly knocked off without having an attempt to respond to it as well. And that is the way that Onward works sometimes. Because of the fact that players aren't given this intel, you do see a lot of team kills happening than you would in some other FPSs. You see some more chaotic situations going on too. 1.5 minutes remaining here for Legal. King of the North basically putting himself into a corner now to try to give him the best chance to spot the last member of Bossfight pushing him. And Legal, more than anything, kind of has eyes on the uplink right now. He may make an attempt for it.
Yeah, Lego is creeping in here. The clock is running down, though, 1 minute left, and these 2 know around where they last saw each other, so they have a good idea of where each other are. And so, oh man, he's gonna see him as he turns the corner here.
Now, mind you, Lego did go behind the houses a few moments ago, so this would have been an opportunity for King of the North to cross the street and take a position anywhere on the south side, but
King of the North is afraid of his flank here,
mm-hmm.
but Lego is creeping in. When they're moving this slow, Blue, can King of the North hear Lego?
Probably not at this point.
Okay.
I think footstep sounds would go quiet at this point with him moving this slowly. The problem, though, for Lego is he might not even realize that the time is this low. When I said there was no UI, I meant that literally they don't see this timer or this scoreboard up on top in-game. The only way he would be able to see it is if he checks his watch on his left wrist there, which we're going to have to hope he's checked it relatively recently.
Oh, no.
Because he's about to run out of time. He moves up. He should see him right here in the corner. Though he's going to go for it, and it looks like it's a nice connection on the headshot from Lego. He'll definitely do a little BM on that as well. He's earned it at this point as he clutches it out. It might have been a 1v4, I think, from Lego right there. Very well played, and he'll take the round for Bossfight.
Wow, Lego, what a round. Yeah, I believe you're right. He got 4 kills or so. But even at that last minute, his spidey senses must have been tingling, or he heard us discussing the round time. But as the timer went down, he just started shooting forward, and he went so aggressive. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when the time's that low, there's nothing really else you can do. You just got to run yourself into the open and make your best attempt at it. And that's exactly what he did. Got a little lucky just before he went loud there, too. I think he spotted him in the corner, and also got pretty lucky that his last opponent was looking the wrong way. You had mentioned about how he was a little bit nervous about his flank from the backyards of those houses, and as such, caught him at the timing where he was checking the backyard, not checking towards the street. If he would have seen that round go a different way, but unfortunately took a position where had to try and look to 2 different spots and ended up timing himself out on that one. So congrats to Lego. Massive clutch coming out from him. Very well played as well to rally that back from otherwise a chaotic push from the rest of his team that ultimately failed. But he was able to bring it back and now puts Bossfight on map point here as they've taken their first attacking round.
Now, Blue, I want to talk a little bit about the team killing, because as I understand it, as you mentioned, it only takes 1 to 2 bullets for these downs, and so team killing it's a little more common in this Onward than we're used to.
It's more than anything, it comes down to the fact that, again, the lack of a UI. So the only thing you have to identify your teammates by is going to be basically the uniforms. The Marsoc, the attacking team, basically the Marines are wearing your standard military briefs that you'd expect. The Volk on the defense, they wear just straight black. That's the only thing you have to identify teammates. So if you're looking at a medium or long-range fight where you may not be able to pick out that detail so easily, in a heat-of-the-moment situation, like we saw in that last round, where teammates are falling back and they either didn't call it or the teammate didn't get the message, you'll oftentimes see teammates just open fire on their own teammates just because they get scared and they're like, oh, this is a fight. I've got to stay alive right here.
Better safe than sorry, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you'll end up, like you were saying, you end up seeing team kills in Onward a lot more often than you might be used to in other FPSs or even some of our other VR games here. And there's another artillery strike coming in from Jamie. Finds Hoochie, downs him. It's not going to be a full elimination just yet, so it's likely we'll see Scorpio or another teammate, as we can see here. Scooby-Doo in this case moves in, gets the quick revive off, and Hoochie will be brought back, but Jamie pushes up. He knows he's probably got Scooby-Doo stuck in here too, either down, but no, Scooby-Doo is able to respond. Gets the down onto Jamie. Scorpio holds the alternate angle if a teammate will want to move in and try to revive him. They actually both throw nades, but no! So they do take out Jamie. It's Scorpio's nade that gets it done. The problem is Hoochie also threw a nade, and again, this is where communication comes in. Didn't realize that his teammate had pushed up to try and chuck a nade over the fence, so he ends up accidentally taking him out.
For sure, and this is what oh man, that snowballed out of their control so fast. You saw Scorpio going in to revive his teammate. He got that revive off, but then all hell just broke loose. Jamie snuck in and got a quick kill to down Scorpio there.
Bossfight do bring it back though. Weather Balloon is able to find another nice grenade, knocking out the second player from Silent Purge now, so it's even again. Down into a 3v3, no down that time, it's a full elimination. Smokes are going to start rolling into the North Street here from Silent Purge as well, primarily coming out from just the west side, so it's only one player chucking it. King of the North from behind the mid-hedge line there. That throws it in. I think more as a distraction than anything, as his 2 other teammates are still trying to push the east side at this point.
Yeah, those 2 teammates, they're going to probably want to gain the attention before the far left member does anything, just because they're together, right, Blue? I mean, is trading a pretty big part of this game, you would say? Generally,
yeah, because multi-fragging due to the low time to kill is a little bit difficult to accomplish unless you get a flank or you end up getting very lucky in a fight. So oftentimes you will go 1-for-1 very often, and we do see another member of Silent Purge. It seems like we're falling right there, but we'll see in a moment now as Hoochie is also basically ready for this push from the other side. Weather Balloon, though, takes out yet another player. Don Patron goes down, and that means we've only got 1 left on Silent Purge. Their attack has ultimately failed here. It's all come down to this west push, as the east side has been absolutely destroyed. I believe that's a Don Patron way up on the north that catches them a little bit early moving up the street, possibly before they were even ready for it. So that takes it down, and now all the pressure's on King of the North. He's trying to give away as little of his hitbox as possible over the sandbags here just to try and play for intel and more than anything be ready to respond back to any shots. Now the uplink is right in front of him. If he wanted to go crazy, he could attempt to smoke his way forward. I think the problem though, he's already used his smoke about a minute or 2 ago, and now he's going to deal with a player right around the corner, and that will ultimately be his death. Hoochie takes him down. A Bossfight will take their 3rd and final point, and that'll end it, ladies and gentlemen. Bossfight, our leading team, takes yet another win here in week number 2 of the VR League, and they take this map 3-1 in their round 1 match.